So the F2 Ultra, this is the brand new machine from xTool. It is a 60 watt MOPA and 40 watt diode machine. It's incredible, as you can see here. I've been testing for days and days, all kinds of projects, and you're gonna see a lot of it. My videos, I'm trying to be as comprehensive as possible with lots of different applications and really working the machine. Really quick, before we get too far, here's a quick overview. What is this machine? All right, it is pretty awesome. And so, like I mentioned, I am gonna show you all these projects. So use the timestamps if you wanna skip on around. Primarily, we're gonna focus on the MOPA, the color engraving, the metal, the deep engravings, the metal cutting. I will talk a little bit about the diode. What's really cool about this one, I love the combo machines like the F1 Ultra, or the original F1. That combo of having both MOPA and diode is awesome, and I'll explore that. However, I know a lot of folks already have the F1 Ultra, and so I'm primarily focusing on that MOPA because what's cool is xTool has made this available where you can purchase it with just the MOPA. So if you want to save, over $1,000 or so and not add the diode, if you already have other machines that can do diode, you can do that. So that's an option. We'll explore that later in the video. All right, enough gab. Let's jump into some really cool projects. So quick look at a comparison between the models. This is the F1 or the F1 Lite, right? The original. This is the F1 Ultra, and here's the F2 Ultra. You can see the size is a little bit bigger. Cutting dimensions and engraving dimensions is about the same, but it is, as far as unit, it's a little bit bigger. Now it looks taller right now. That's just because I had it raised. Like with the F1 Ultra, you have this little touchpad, which is great to raise and lower. You can do framing features, all kinds of good stuff. One of the biggest changes between the two, let's take a look. So one of the biggest changes is you can see the partition, right? So safety is huge. Now before, right here, a little bit of a gap, and sometimes you might get a little bit of laser light leakage. There's just this little recess right in here. On some of the early models of the F1 Ultra, some people have that issue. With the F2 Ultra, it comes all the way down, and it's a tight seal. And so there's less, chance of any light coming out. Also, you can see this is just plastic. Maybe it's a different material, a little bit stronger. You'll have to check that, but we do have some aluminum on the side, so it's a stronger, a little bit more solid, unit coming up and down. You can see, still great, works great, but this one a lot cleaner. As far as the bed itself, let's take a look. So I believe it is the same cutting and engraving size. I think it's 220 millimeters by 220 millimeters. However, this is a wider plate, which is nice. So more things if you have larger items, a little bit more to support it, but the engraving space is still the same. And then the big change you can see here, if I was engraving, cutting, it would be a little bit harder to get to that. Whereas this one, there's some changes with the F2 Ultra. And of course, just like with the F1 Ultra, comes with the cutting plate. This is nice for other materials if you don't want to, totally tattoo your base. Not like that's going to hurt it at all. But it's just pretty straightforward like this. You have your little right angle like here for repeatability. And then you just come over to the touchpad and you can just double tap. Repeat, repeat, repeat. This is awesome. A great feature. The screen, this touch screen is so nice. So nice. So let's take a quick look at it. We got magnets on the back of this one, really easy to pop out. Now I ran a ton of Slate coasters with lots of layers, so it made a huge mess, as you can see. So this is really helpful that I can get back in here. The back, you just pop that off. You can pop that off, and you're good to go for cleaning. Now, as long as you're using an inline fan or like the IF2 or the AP2, you're pretty good. The only exception is when you're doing Slate, right? You're still going to want to use one of those. Definitely going to want to use something like that, but it does make a mess. So after I ran all of that really deep engraving with the Slate and all that brass, had to clean it out with an air compressor and the vacuum. All right, let's jump into some projects. So brass coins are super fun, these deep embossed engravings. You could do this with the F1 Ultra. The thing is, these took like 6+ hours to get this much detail. And these, it took an hour and 10 minutes to an hour and a half on different ones. Now, after you do your engraving, you can do a cleanup pass, but look at the depth that we have there. So much depth in like a sixth of the time. So here's a look at them after I did some cleanup passes with the laser, but I wanted to clean them up even more. I've done this in my other videos and I'll show more how you can age it and blue it, but just using a Dremel tool, you'll see this a couple times, especially with the brass, and just like a Dremel tool or a rotary attachment, it cleans up so nice. You can polish it. You can go, way different. You can antique it, all kinds of things. But for those of you who like to do the deep engraving in metals and brass and challenge coins, an hour to an hour and a half tops for that much depth, as opposed to the 6+ hours with the F1 Ultra before. And so that is huge. That is absolutely huge. All right, this is my favorite feature. I'm not saving this for later in the video. Early on, you got to see it. It's embossing and then cutting. So this is 2 mm thick brass, and we did an embossing. I'll talk about the software later in the video on how you do this. Got a lot more on that later. There's lots of good stuff throughout. But after you emboss it, then you cut it out. So just using a brass sheet, you can get some awesome result. Now check that out. Now obviously it needs some cleanup, but that is super cool. You can make it with a little ring, an attachment at the top in the software to make it into a necklace. You could do charms. You could totally turn this into pins. There's so many possibilities. Here you can see some of the other projects. It did get a little bit burnt here, so I ended up cleaning those up and then I re-engraved the other side. So if you're going to engrave, I recommend cutting it first and then engraving for an engraved piece. But this embossed one, look how easily we were able to clean that up. But here you can see I engraved these ones on brass and then cut them. Got a little tarnish, so maybe cut it first and then engrave. Experimenting. Lots of variables that I played around with, but lots of really cool things to do. Little necklace, earrings, all kinds of stuff. Way, way faster. Again, this was like 6 to 8 hours on the F1 Ultra just to cut, thin, less than 1 mm thick brass. So really fast, clean it up. Now I've showed my rotary attachment. This is just a tip people want to know. This is the Fordham unit. It's got a little foot pedal. This just makes things so much easier. I'll link it down below. But if you're going to be doing a lot of cleanup, this is awesome. We've got other tips, drop them in the comments. But doing those little plates are great. I did this on the F1 Ultra. You can do, commemorative baseball plaques and plaques, so many plaque elements. All right, so test files. So this is a newer machine. So there's a lot of testing that I had to do. And so you can see some of these, but want to talk a little bit about testing and just how simple it is. If you already know this, you can skip on ahead using those timestamps. All right, let's talk test files. So this is an early machine, right? This is one of the early machines. And so xTool did send this file to kind of test out the color settings. This was one of their test files to do the Van Gogh and colors. You've probably seen that in some of the other videos that have come out. But because it's so early, there isn't as extensive of a material library for their plug and play settings as usual. So you're gonna need to run these, depends on when you get yours. Probably by the time all of you who purchase one, there'll be an extensive library and all of us will have done a lot more testing to share on Facebook groups and here on videos. But there is a lot of testing with any machine. There's a lot of variables. You're gonna have to test out, with brass and like, oh, I have to hold down with weight. Try different passes. There's different thicknesses. There's so many different variables. The steel is going to be a big thing too, because there's all kinds of different stainless steel, and so the colors will fluctuate a fair amount. So lots of testing. If you don't know, it's very simple. At the end of this video, I'll talk a little bit about software and I'll show you how simple it is to run the test settings. But I will say, I did run into some issues. This is early and so I did not put this in a tumbler. If I put this in a tumbler to engrave, I would have gotten results like this. Probably no sweat. However, I tried the curved surface engraving where you put it down and it maps it out. And I just couldn't get my settings yet for a powder coated tumbler. Now there's no way that xTool has this machine where it's not capable of doing tumblers. I've already seen other users do tumblers, so rest assured you'll be able to do tumblers. I was spending too much time trying to get my settings dialed in to get a good enough results. But there's a little bit of, full disclosure, pull behind the curtain. Sometimes you can't figure it quite out. So this video, I really believe, is comprehensive on just about everything. I didn't get to tumblers and I didn't do glass, but those are things that worked on all the other F series. So I know it's gonna work on this one with even faster and better results. But test files, test files. Time for the speed test. All right, this baby can go to 15,000 millimeters per second. The F1 Ultra was 10,000, which was crazy fast. All right, less than a second. You can hardly even see it. So here I have that touchpad there so you can see how fast we can engrave. So we're gonna hit it, done. So that's a scoring setting in about, what is that, 1 second? Yeah, 1 second we got an image and we have some text just with the scoring pass. So, and then here's that repeatability. I just double tap. This is so handy. There is another attachment like a foot pedal and things, but I find this very, very helpful for the repeatability. Of course, there's the cameras, so it can do smart processing. That's another option, but sometimes it's easier to just kind of get repeatability with that double tap, but it's really fast. It's really fast. Now, obviously more involved engravings that have more detail. Engraving is going to take a little bit longer than a scoring pass, but here got a bunch of different metal business cards. And again, just using that right angle attachment, repeatability, 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 so helpful. But like I mentioned with the camera, this is really cool, that smart processing. So I can put in one, I frame out one, and then even if the other cards are in the wrong direction or they're all kind of, it just AI camera, right? It senses and all right, let's get going. And so then engraves and then engraves the rest of them. It does a really, really great job. So the camera frames out one and then it just auto populates the other ones. It's really slick. So I've used this a lot on the F1 Ultra, and of course that tech has translated here to the F2 Ultra, makes things really, really simple. So up and running, here we go. So this works really, really well. And so if you're doing, a jewelry business and you want to do charms, dog tags, little necklace pendants, this is really simple. Obviously business cards is great. Here, doing some anodized aluminum, not dog tags. These would be luggage tags. Really clean. Again, that same idea. There's a lot of really great anodized aluminum blanks. So I wanted to explore a couple others. These are some different wallets, lots of different ones. I have quite a few videos showing a variety of engraving blanks. You'll see a lot throughout this video. I will link down the ones that you see here, but you can check my other videos for even more ideas for engraving and for small business ideas and applications. You can do portraits. You can mess around with the settings a lot more and get them very crisp, whether you want to do it on business cards or you want to do it on acrylic, glossy acrylic, lots of options. This is a fun one. This is a little butane torch. It's anodized aluminum engraving, but I'm showing this cool little flex feature. And so this is a little accessory that xTool came out with this last year, and it's pretty handy, right? So you can get it to whatever size you want so your blank doesn't move around. If you're going to be doing repeatability, so that would obviously roll back and forth. That works really well. You'll see that again in a second. Here's a little pill container, pill box. Ha ha ha. Anyway, it's fun. Anodized aluminum, a lot of great blanks out there. These slimline wallets, I love it. I use one. I've been using one for about 1.5 years now. These are great. They make great gifts, great stocking stuffers. Can do a whole small business plan with just those. Of course, we can engrave knives. You can do the knife, blade itself. If you have a wood handle, you could switch over to the diode, the 40-watt diode laser, and engrave the handle. But lots of possibilities there. This would be a great great machine for doing other knife blanks, engraving there. All right, here's a little hip flask. This is stainless steel, but it's anodized. If you change the settings, you can get gold, you can get silver. Again, using those test files, depending on the speed and power, you can get different colors, different results. But yeah, there's some pretty cool applications. Anodized aluminum, there's a lot of really cool blanks out there. All right, continuing with anodized aluminum, we're doing business cards again. This is something I discovered doing with the F1 Ultra projects, where you can engrave little images and then you can switch over to cut through that thin aluminum. Now, obviously, this one's more powerful. You can do some thicker anodized aluminum. They do come in thicker anodized aluminum sheets. But here, making earrings. And so these are super thin, but you can still get some really, really cool results. Some two-tone. You could do multi-layer with the different colors. They come with a lot of different colored business cards these days. But, you know, kind of thin here. But then you just add an earring attachment. You got some great options. I'll explore some other options shortly. But here you can see some more colors, right? I am using these metal blocks. These are 321 blocks. So I'll link them down. It's really helpful when you're cutting the thin stuff. The metal, it wants to curl up. This right here is like a little heart pendant. This one will get attached to wood later in the video. But cool, right? Some cool possibilities of what you can do with this. This is from the F1 Ultra. These are some ones that I did about a year ago, where you can see I did some walnuts that I cut, and then just adding that to the top. So those are some options, and you could do that with this F2 Ultra as well, even faster. Here are some different ones. There's the metal. You could cut out some metal earrings and do all kinds of things. Now, I recently moved, and in the move, I haven't been able to find my power cord for my RA2 Pro rotary. So this is some content from the F1 Ultra where you can engrave, right? You can use this rotary, do all kinds of stuff. You can do rings on the inside, on the outside, all kinds of metals, tumblers. So it can do that. I just couldn't find the cord that I needed to do it for this video, but that'll come in the future. Here's some other fun blanks. You can do some, you know, little pocket watches, and, you know, can do all kinds of different things. Again, you can engrave just about anything. You can check my other videos for ideas on things to engrave, and, you know, all kinds of possibilities, some sales ideas, some gift ideas. But I try and include lots of different ideas in each of my videos. And of course, I did link you know, most of these blanks down below, so you can check them out. But just, again, exploring some of the possibilities with this machine, maybe giving you some ideas, and yeah, some ideas. This is probably my favorite blank to engrave, are lighters. So these just little lighters get some great results, and so they're fun, you know, fun, right? Some fun different ones. So obviously anodized steel, anodized aluminum, or actual stainless steel. You can do the colors, right? You can do some more things with it. Here's another one, just, you know, thumb drives, right? Do people even use those anymore? I don't really know. But here is a fun little application. You know, of course, this is my phone number. But no, you can have fun with this. You know, if you do have backup and storage, you could, you know, engrave all kinds of things. You know, if you have things backed up, not on the cloud, but, you know, storage like that. All right, medals, awards. So these are just some blanks from Amazon. You could definitely play around with this a lot more. I think these are plated and not real brass. So, you know, probably can't do the same results as a brass coin, but I didn't quite play around with the deep embossing on here and deep engraving, but still pretty cool, right? And so you could have a lot of fun with these. You could look into some local races, you know, businesses, sports teams, all kinds of applications there where you could, you know, take that on for some small projects and help, you know, recoup the cost of getting a new machine, something like that. Other applications, brass. Well, of course, you know, locks, right? You can do some engraving on some brass locks. I don't know why you do that, but I mean, I'm sure you could, you know, I don't know, some kind of wedding anniversary gift. I don't know. There's applications. It was brass. We thought we'd engrave it. So here you can see what it looks like. It actually comes out really clean. I just used their stock settings from their library that xTool had for these, and thought that was actually pretty cool. All right. One of the other things that I love doing with the F1 Ultra, I'm doing here with the F2 Ultra in a fraction of the time. Now, this took hours and hours and hours. Now, with the F2 Ultra, it just goes so much faster. So these are wax seals. So we're doing the inverse, reflection of an image. So whether it's a flower or, my logo here, this is from the F1 Ultra. You can see what it looks like. And then with wax, you can do some really cool wax seals. And so this is, again, footage from the F1 Ultra, but I did some new ones with the F2 Ultra. Way faster, way faster. Really cool application. So earlier you saw all that dust from the slate. Well, here are those slate embossings. And so kind of like with the brass coin, you kind of play around with the settings. I did do some test settings on this and tried out a couple options, but then you use a depth map. We'll talk about that a little bit more with the software later in the video. And you can get some really, really deep engraving, some really cool stuff, make some cool art. You can get larger slate pieces like this to do signs. You could even, take it and then do multiple colors. On the side, I'll show that in a second, but here's some of the ones that I tested out. You, of course, have the option of doing a spray lacquer before or after. Here are some ones that I've done in the past where you have a gold and a silver. Again, if you have different power, faster, slower, different speeds, you can get different colors in those test files. I have a whole video on the process of doing really, really cool coasters. It's just faster. Colored engraving. What you've all been waiting for. The colored engraving is just so much fun. Here you can see just all the colors and that black. That black is the showstopper. It takes a lot longer to do the black, but these are just using xTool settings and going to play around with that for a bit. This dragon was so cool. I'm going to show you really quickly some of the cool AI features they have with the software to easily map out the colors, but check that out. Right? And there's, again, I'm just learning how to use this with the different colors and I'm playing around. There's a lot more nuance and settings that you can do to get all kinds of different colors, but pretty cool, pretty cool. And so there's even these stainless steel business cards. These are a lot thicker, but I wanted to test out a bunch of different designs and styles. And so kind of played around with some more. And then, of course, you see a theme. I love doing the lions. So this is a cool one. So I want to show you how to do this in the software, some really cool new features. So check this out. So real quick, I want to show how simple the tech is, the software that is. So this is free software. This is XCS, xTool Creative Space. It's really simple. And so I want to talk about the color engraving and one of the really cool features. So if I want to, sure, I can find an SVG and I can individually say, all right, this one, I want this to be the settings after I've done my color test. But this is where it gets so simple. And you might have seen this from the ads. So here I have a PNG, right? So it's just a normal PNG. But if I click on color engrave, there's this color separation feature. And I click on it, and it's going to automatically take that PNG and divide every single color into a different layer. Now it's going to go ahead and group it with its preset colors, but as you click on it, you can see, all right, this one right here, that's the color. I go down here, all right, it's going to be about that color. So each one I click on individually, and all right, I want that to be my black setting. So after I've already gone through and decided what I want, I'm going to label, whatever color, what. I have my different, colors I have. So here you can see I already did it where I have all these different images. And then, all right, this one, it's going to be at this setting and this one. But it's so simple to just go through and you can see all these different layers. And there you have it, right? And that's how I was able to get those really great results on this dragon and then with that lion. All right, more on the software, more on files, all kinds of good stuff later in the video. And just a few more color engravings. This is actually a stainless steel blank I cut out using the xTool Metal Fab. You can check my videos on that to learn all about the Metal Fab. Amazing, even faster for cutting metal and thick stuff. But here you can see the difference. This was color engraving with the F1 Ultra. I was able to get some colors, and then there is the F2 Ultra. So obviously there's a lot of variables with the settings, but the F2 Ultra, wow, the one on the left, really, really sharp, crisp. You have a lot more control, and that's the whole idea with MOPA, is you have control over pulse and frequencies and all that kind of stuff. Here, just did a little black engraving on this little grill scraper, flipper. It'd be called a spatula. That's what it's called. Yeah, all right. Here, some more colors on stainless steel bracelets. There's actually like an attachment thing to actually bend these correctly, but that's a thing. You can make this. That's another application of stainless steel and all kinds of other projects of what you could do. So that's kind of cool. All right, signet ring. Here's that cool little adapter thing again. I can just put a signet ring in there. While I didn't have my cord to use my rotary, I was able to do this cool signet ring. So just right here, this is real time. Real time. Here we go. Push. Done. Right? Now, obviously, the different metals, all the variables, you can do a lot of different things. You could do a family crest, you could do a logo, you could do all kinds of things. But yeah, there you can see. Here's another great application of that little flexible jig thing. I'll find what it's actually called and I'll link it down below in the description. But it's kind of fun. Kind of fun application. Stainless steel bottle opener, different colors here. It does say father, like a dad, but mightier. Doesn't say Fahor. All right, father. This is that one you saw in their xTool one where they do the holographic engraving with some different settings. That's kind of fun. Cool. So I played around with that a little bit on the keychains and the dog tags. You can see that this is their stock file, but then you can just apply the same settings to your image like here. Hundreds of blanks, all kinds of things that you could engrave. I talk about that again in my other videos. I have whole videos just dedicated to unique blanks. But again, I wanted to show all kinds of possibilities with this machine and really test it out and see how it holds up after lots of testing. But yeah, let's do a hatchet handle. That's fun. So cool possibilities. Don't worry, we're going to do lots more projects, but really quick, want to make sure I talk about some really great features. Now, depending on when you're watching this video, there might have already been the launch. Now, if you're here before the launch, you definitely want to do that $50 deposit to get even better savings. But what's great about this machine is you can choose to get just the MOPA only. And that is a big savings, right? That's like, $1,300 savings. If you already have an F1 Ultra or you already have a diode laser and you just want that MOPA power, that is an option for you. However, I will show later in the video more about the 40-watt diode, but to this point, you've seen a lot of what the MOPA can do. So that is an option. Lots of really, really good details here. You can learn a lot more about the machine, the specs, all the technical stuff is definitely here. I'll look for more coming, and of course that live event, you'll see that. But just wanted to share, if you use my affiliate link down below for that $50 deposit, the $50 deposit, again, this is if you've watched this at this point, it is fully refundable. After the fact, obviously the prices are going to go up a bit. But if you use my affiliate link, we do get a small commission. It helps support my family. It's why I can spend days doing these tests and files. So please consider using that if you're going to make a purchase. But some really cool stuff here on that website. So make sure you check that out. But lots more goodness, more video. Here we go. So right now we're going to focus on the diode, the 40-watt diode. The previous F1 Ultra had 20 watt. This is 40 watt. Just means faster. You can cut deeper. You can engrave deeper. Here's just a little cutting board. I'm a woodworker and I love doing cutting boards. So here are some different cutting boards that I've engraved in the past. So maybe if you're here as a woodworker, you can engrave wood, or someone, you could offer your services. But yeah, the diode component can definitely help with organics. Wood, cork does great with the diode. And so you'll learn some things are better suited for the diode and some things are better suited for MOPA, but typically it's things that are like organics or once wood or a living matter. Some spatulas, leather, right? Leather patches, so many possibilities. I actually did a ton of projects with leather patches and leather adhesive earlier this year. This was just a quick one. If you want to explore that idea a little bit more, I got a whole video on that with some sales ideas and lots more on the leather, some really great adhesives and products in real, top grain leather. Journals are quick. Journals are fun. This is, again, using, you can see the blue, so it's the diode here doing that. Every leatherette is very different and unique. You got to be careful with it. Some, off-gas bad stuff, but also the settings. You're going to have to play around with those settings a lot. Let's talk about cutting the wood. Now, it is a galvo laser. That means it's coming from a fixed point at the different angle. Do you see how it's going at these different angles? So you are going to have some curved, some slanted angles on the side of the piece where it cuts it out. You can see here I do have some masking on the top just because, I was getting some again, test settings. You got to play around with it. I didn't dial in my settings quite yet in time for this video. It worked great. I got great results. It does have the flame sense, built in here, and so it'll automatically shut off the machine if it senses flame. So lots of safety features. That's one of the great things about xTool. Also, I had the enclosure open, and so, all the smoke and whatnot. It was just made for better filming, but you just pull off that masking and there you go. And here's that piece from earlier. Oh, we got a lovely little necklace piece right there. Some possibilities using, the wood component along with the metal cutting. I also cut out some, little, these are ornaments. This is more like, Christmas artwork. You can paint it. You can do all kinds of things. I have a ton of videos on these layered art. This is some fun one. Here's a video on the Christmas ones. Great way to make money. If you're looking for ways to make money, you can check out those videos. I also love doing these layered, artwork pieces, kind of like a mandala effect. This one I just did 2 layers thick, not my full, 4, 5, 6 layers, but just cutting out some plywood. See, it didn't quite go through that way because of that angle. It's coming at the angle, but it cuts clean. Just once you get your settings dialed in, you can do a little sanding if you didn't do masking, anything like that. Now I'm cutting acrylic. So this is a thinner acrylic, but it can cut thick acrylic. It can actually go pretty thick. Here's one of their test settings of cutting some super thick acrylic, right? 20 millimeters. So this one's thinner, obviously the one that I cut, just because that's what I had on hand. And hey, that's fun. This is a simple layer, but look at the crazy layers you can do. So that's a possibility. This machine's more suited for engraving, but it can do some cutting, right? If that's something that you're looking to do. So we could cut out ornament pieces. You can just cut out blanks and then engrave them. Or you could do that layered effect again, where you cut out multiple pieces, like I've done in these videos, where you're using different woods and acrylics. Again, more videos on that. But yeah, it can cut thick wood. It is that angle, so 23 millimeters. All right. Okay, the conveyor. So this is the conveyor. They rolled this out with the F1 Ultra. I don't know if there's much new about this one. I just know that I've gotten better results. It's the camera's locked in even more. Here, it's kind of like that what we saw earlier in the video of it auto sensing. The camera is auto sensing. It's just going through. And if it doesn't pick something up, it's because it just didn't quite fit in the camera. And so instead of engraving it and messing up your engraving, it'll just go ahead and send that on through and not start the engraving. So if there's something off, if it's off the engraving area. Didn't do a lot of tests here because, I've done that before, but just to show it does work. So you could do, before I did the MOPA, here we're doing the diode laser, doing some cool stuff. So again, you can see it didn't pick up one of those coasters just because it was out of the engraving area. So you just cycle it back. But this is a really cool thing for batch processing if you have an item for repeatability. I've done this a lot in a lot of my videos, and there have been some videos where this, and some projects where this was really, really helpful to pull off. But here's, quite a few videos. So here's one's just dedicated to this idea. But I've never done this before. You can do longer engravings. So you can actually go up to 500 millimeters long. So the bed of this machine is 220 by 220 for engraving, but really simple. It was actually surprisingly easy. I was able to engrave this, and it can go up to 500 millimeters long. So a much longer engraving piece. So what does that entail? What can you do? Well, some of the things that I've done, with the original F1 and the slide extension, you can do these longer charcuterie boards. This one's like a Santa's milk and cookies board. So, that's something that you could do. Obviously easier in the power of this 40 watt would be so much faster for wood. Here's some wood trays. So having that bigger capability. So the conveyor is for batch production, but it's also for doing larger pieces, pieces that are longer. All right, a little bit more on software. All right, want to explore the software a little bit more. There's going to be some repeat for those of you who know it, but some really, really cool new features, some great AI features as well. All right, so you can get these preset test files that xTool is going to send, that they'll release with the color mapping. That's what I did earlier. But for all those other materials I talked about earlier, really, really simple. So I usually just go with the tree, any kind of image, right? And if I want to do test engraving or a score engraving test, or if I want to do, color engraving, or if I'm going to do this for cutting, really simple. So you go, you have it, and then just make sure you mark it. Do you want to use the MOPA or do you want to use the blue light, which is the diode? So let's say I'm trying to, get test files for brass. If I click on this, brass, xTool is going to already have a bunch of predetermined ones for the most common materials, but maybe I have something that's a little less common, or I want to do this for, some leather or some other, a unique notebook. All right, well, I click on it. I go down here, I do material test array, and then I can pick, right? So, I want to start at least 200 millimeters per second. I don't think 15,000 is going to work for me, even though that's an option. Let's just do 8,000, kind of give that range. I think that's good. And you know what? I can knock down the spacing a little bit. Really simple, right? And so I did this a lot. It's that easy. And then you can run this test file on whatever material. This is especially important when you're using, different, all kinds of materials like you saw earlier. All right, so that's simple. Here's the cool new AI feature that you're gonna love. You're gonna love. So if I wanted to do one of those embossings, one of those deep engravings, I'm gonna use the AI feature. So this is AI Make. It's now called Atom. You do use credits. However, they're really, really affordable. And it's all here, so you don't have to go elsewhere. If you go on the main website, there's a lot more options on here. I'm in one of the early trial software ones, but if you go onto atom.com, you'll see it. But I've used embossment a ton. So I'm going to upload an image. Let's say, all right, so you saw me do this one earlier. Here is my eagle. Oh, yeah, it's too big. So if that ever happens, my workaround was I just did a screenshot of that. I did a screenshot of the image. Boom. And there you go. It's a lower quality file. It works. And so now I want to just emboss it, right? And so I'm just doing embossing. You can do other things, but you can see here I've already done this on a couple of them. So here I have my embossed eagle. All right, well, you saw me do that cool thing earlier. We'll explore that more in more videos. I don't want to make this tutorial too long, but it's really simple with some outlining, some adding some other features. But this is how you do the coin. I did one, here. Let's say I wanted to do the Iron Man coin, a depth map. So what you're doing is you're taking images and you're creating your own depth maps. And then let's see, I'm just going to add a circle to do what's called masking. And okay, it's not perfect, you get the idea. I'm gonna just highlight both of them and it's gonna create a mask. And now, boom, I have my Iron Man there. I just go up here, I click on embossment, and I'm gonna do embossing. I'm gonna use MOPA. We're going to call it brass. Well, anyway, all the settings come from xTool, and you can look at them later. You'll get the settings. But that's how I did it. The software really is simple. I know I went pretty fast here. In my future videos on the F2 Ultra, I'll go a little bit slower. I'm going to give a lot more tips on some cool things I was able to do and some more ideas coming. But a lot of the files you saw came from AI Make, right? A lot of them I did in here. So that's that Atom. Some other really cool new features where you can convert to line drawings. You can do all kinds of stuff. So the color engraving, this was also done, back here. Let's see, that was text and graphics, logo. Yeah, so there's some different ones with color. pick this one. So that's really cool. That's a great feature. Definitely want to check that out. Another resource I talk about in a lot of my videos is Creative Fabrica. So most of the things you saw me engrave, like that colored lion, a lot of these different things, I found from Creative Fabrica. Now, if you go to Etsy and you buy, this file on Love and Kindness, right? That's going to be like $3 or $4. All right, this one is about $2. This one, $2. This one's $4. This one's well, Creative Fabrica is a subscription, and for $4, you get unlimited downloads. So let's say I wanted to really get into the, watercolor, lion type thing. Well, I can download this unlimited. So I can download anything I want. It includes a commercial license. I could sell it. I mean, check out this one for all the color engraving. This is that really cool new, watercolor. We'll just do watercolor and you'll see, all kinds of different ones. But there's so many images, so many different things. You saw all my different SVGs. I use this all the time. So definitely want to check this out. If you use my link down below, you'll get 10 free downloads. Don't have to pay for anything, but some really cool ones. But check it out. It's definitely worth it. I do, 50 to 100 downloads a month. And so pretty cool. So check that out. All right, more on the F2 Ultra and projects and all that good stuff. So many projects, lots of things. I didn't feature them all in this video because obviously this is a really long video. So look forward to a lot more on this machine and what it can do, the capabilities. But here's just a closer look at some of the things that I was able to engrave and some of the possibilities. All right, try to make it as comprehensive as possible. Don't worry, there will be many more videos with this machine. It is definitely my new favorite. This F1 Ultra, I've made so many videos with it. This is gonna be my new main machine. I'll obviously be using both, but some speed with this one, pretty awesome. Well, if this video added value, please consider subscribing. A lot of laser content, all kinds of other things, all things maker. So definitely check out the other videos. All right, let's talk a little bit more about the machine. So right now, if you're watching this video at the very beginning, it's still a couple days left of the pre-sale where if you're early on, there's some extra savings. However, probably a lot of you are coming to this video after that first pre-sale. You still want to get in early on those great savings. Definitely check out this link. It's going to give you all the specs, all the details, and you can kind of make a more informed decision. Now, this is our affiliate link. That means we do get a portion of each sale. It helps support my family. That's why I'm able to spend all these days making this video. So consider using that, all the savings in the link down below or here. All right, for what it's worth. With all my videos, I do want to make lots more. So you're going to see a lot more F2 Ultra videos. We're going to explore a lot more of that embossing in brass and cutting metals, deeper engravings, all kinds of other things. If there's something in particular you're looking for, let me know in the comments. I'll try and add that in the next video. Yes, xTool does send me these machines, obviously, in exchange for making these videos, right? And those affiliate commissions. It is not biased, right? So obviously there are still some bugs still with the software as it's new, but so far very, very impressed. Obviously I'd love to be able, with the curved surface engraving, some of the batch processing, some of those settings, they're just not there yet, right? And so I haven't been able to fully test everything because I had to do so many test settings. And so I really do believe this is an amazing machine. xTool is also really responsive. Some of the things, the feedback they got from the F1 Ultra, they incorporated into this F2 Ultra for improvements, and the software is just constantly evolving and getting better and better. It's free, it's easy. I hope you saw that earlier, how simple it is. But awesome company, and now they have US support. So for those of you in the United States, really expanded for US support. So if you have any issues, they'll be there for you. So that's awesome. Great company. I work with them exclusively just because they are just amazing. Amazing for so many things. All the new R&D, all the systems compatible, great software, great user base, a lot of sharing of files and settings, especially as we start figuring this out. You'll see more settings in my future videos when we explore that more, and that material library is going to have a lot more settings as well. All right. This was long, but hopefully it was comprehensive. Again, drop in the comment what you'd like to see, what more you want to know about it, and we'll incorporate it in future videos. Thank you for watching. Until next time, take care.